So today we'll be taking a look at a few different stories regarding Sasha Banks, Cesaro, and the biggest report about WWE's entertainment direction. Let's start things off with the Sasha Banks news. So it's been almost 3 weeks since Wrestlemania, and Sasha Banks has only appeared one time for a few seconds on the Smackdown after WrestleMania. Sasha Banks was interviewed on that Smackdown after WrestleMania and was questioned about WrestleMania and losing her title. Sasha was so frustrated at the time that she just grabbed her head, looked like she was going to say something, but ended up storming right out of that interview. It was a great little moment, even with no words said. It was one of those classic moments of action speaking louder than words. Sasha didn't even have to say a single word, but thanks to her facial expressions, grabbing her head and storming off, we knew exactly what the character was feeling in that moment. She's absolutely heated about losing her title in the main event of WrestleMania, and who knows what she'll be willing to do to get that title back. There's probably some desperation there that's going to take Sasha Banks' character to the next level. It does seem like Sasha's character is evolving into a new era. She obviously has the new green and blue hair, so a change in hair color is usually the easiest indication that something new is happening or the character is evolving in some sort of way. So it'll definitely be very interesting to see what new things the blue and green hair Sasha Banks brings to the table that maybe the blue hair or purple hair Sasha Banks didn't bring. But one thing that was pretty easy to notice this week was that the fact that Sasha Banks was missing from SmackDown. It's the first episode of SmackDown that she fully missed and didn't appear in a very long time. So there's a lot of rumors and discussions going on right now amongst the fans about Sasha's absence. Even without being a champion, Sasha Banks is still one of WWE's biggest stars. So her absence definitely doesn't go unnoticed. Fans are trying to figure out if she'll be back next week and get this Backlash match turned into a triple threat, or if this is a longer break for Sasha. There's so many rumors about it possibly being a hiatus, rumors of it possibly being tied to filming for Mandalorian Season 3, just so many rumors out there. Looking back at it, maybe that no words interview with Sasha Banks was meant to write her character off for a bit. Maybe the character is so upset that she just storms out, gets herself together, and then will return for Bianca Belair down the line. The whole rematch clause for former champions is a bit unclear right now as well. It was a little while back where WWE said that ex-champions no longer get an automatic rematch. If you lose the title, you go to the back of the line. That's what they said was going to happen, but that really hasn't been the case. We saw Asuka get a rematch for her title the very next night after WrestleMania, and Big E is set to get a rematch for his Intercontinental title as well. So it does look like automatic rematches can still be in play. So if that's the case, then that means Sasha Banks is still owed a rematch. Maybe they're saving Sasha vs. Bianca Part 2 for SummerSlam, or their next bigger show again. That would make some sense. But for now, if Sasha doesn't appear again next week on SmackDown, then this may be a hiatus after all. Hopefully they still have something for Sasha to do even outside of the title picture as well. But what are your thoughts on Sasha Banks' absence from SmackDown? Cesaro is finally where he deserves to be, and that's in a main event program for a world title. Cesaro has been on a roll since WrestleMania. He picked up the huge win over Seth Rollins and used that win to elevate himself into the Universal title picture. Sin Cara recently congratulated Cesaro for his massive success lately and also revealed a story on a backstage fight between Cesaro and himself that was about to get really ugly. Sin Cara had this to say when speaking with Inside the Ropes. That day was crazy. A lot of the guys were a little upset and a lot of things that were going on. It was just a lot of crazy stuff going on. It was the first tag team elimination chamber ever, so I remember we were trying to get everything in order, and then it was just crazy. The other day, I posted a picture of me and Cesaro because he won his WrestleMania match, and then Tyson, Kid, commented on that. He said oh, I remember what happened before the match, because me and Cesaro got in a little argument backstage before the match. So everyone thought we were going to get in this crazy fight or whatever. And then we ended up having an amazing match. It was a great experience for me to be in the first tag team chamber. So according to Sin Cara, tensions were really high before that first ever tag team elimination chamber match. All that high tension caused Cesaro and Sin Cara to get into it backstage, and everyone was expecting them to break out into this crazy fight. But thankfully that didn't happen, and they still put on a great match. Like we mentioned before, things are getting better than they've ever been for Cesaro right now. For the first time in his 9-year-long career in WWE, he's finally in the main event scene. It looks like he will be having a world title match in the near future with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns doesn't believe that Cesaro is worth his time and keeps looking past him right now. But maybe something happens. Something continues to develop where Roman Reigns will have to defend his title against Cesaro. That seems to be the route we're heading. But we'll see how that turns out for Cesaro. There's a very interesting new report that came out recently that touched on the rumored direction for WWE. According to this report, WWE is preparing for a transition into mainstream entertainment property. It was also reported that WWE President Nick Khan envisioned something similar to Marvel and DC Comics for WWE, with a lot of possible crossover appeal, not just for the actual performers, but for the characters and WWE itself. So, if this really is the path they're heading towards, then that could be very interesting. Something similar to Marvel and DC, where the company and their characters are just so well known all over the world, and of course have that crossover appeal. The DC Comics and Marvel characters are everywhere. They have merchandise, they're featured in amusement parks, they have their own TV shows, they have their own movies, they just have it all. So a world like that for WWE and their larger-than-life characters would be interesting as well. Easy example right off the bat, Bray Wyatt and Alexa Bliss. These two characters that would be capable of carrying their own TV show, movie, or some sort of mainstream entertainment like that. 2 minutes a week on WWE programming for a character like Alexa Bliss just simply isn't enough. Characters like Alexa Bliss and Bray Wyatt are so complex and interesting that the fans want to see more. They want to have more time with them. They would love something that follows those characters. The Fiend is obviously a hit horror film that's just waiting to happen, just as long as you leave the writing pen out of WWE's hands. We already seen what they've done to the Fiend story. They had their chance, but it'll be nice to have this big crossover where an actual creative film writer could collaborate with Bray Wyatt and WWE to make this film on The Fiend. Things like that to really branch out and put their characters on full display to people that aren't even wrestling fans would be beneficial in so many ways. You see the massive fan bases that Marvel and DC have with their mainstream entertainment. WWE could possibly make their fan base even bigger by doing some sort of those same forms of entertainment. Something like that would be pretty insane to see. But what are your thoughts on today's stories? What are your thoughts on Sasha missing SmackDown, Cesaro's backstage fight, and the reports of WWE branching into more mainstream entertainment? Leave your comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a like if you enjoyed. Thanks for watching, guys.